Hello, dear friends. Today we are going to read and better understand the chapter Perseus and the Gorgons. So, first of all, let's understand who was Perseus and who were the Gorgons. Perseus is a Greek hero. In Greek mythology, Perseus is considered to be the son of a Greek god named Zeus. Gorgons refers to three sisters, one of whom was Medusa. The Gorgons on their head had snakes instead of hair, and if anyone looked at them directly, they would turn into stone. That is why it was extremely difficult, almost impossible to kill them. In this chapter, we will come to know how Perseus killed the Gorgon named Medusa. In the northern skies, if you look up on a clear night, you can see a constellation of stars called Perseus. Here, the writer is telling us that if we look up at the sky in the northern direction, then on a clear night, which means a cloudless night, we will be able to clearly see a constellation of stars which is named Perseus. A constellation refers to a group of stars which form a particular pattern and have a name. So a constellation of stars is named Perseus because that is how famous this character is in Greek mythology. This constellation is named after a Greek hero who was half man, half god. His father was the god Zeus and his mother was the beautiful human Danae. So the constellation Perseus, we are being told, is named after a Greek hero. Obviously, the name of the Greek hero was Perseus. He was half man, half god because his father was Zeus and his mother was a human named Danae. When he was a baby, Perseus and his mother were sent away to an island called Seriphos. A kind man named Dictys took them in and looked after them. Dictys's brother, Polydictys, was the king of the island. Polydictys was a cruel and evil tyrant. Perseus grew up on an island called Seriphos. He and his mother were sent to this island when Perseus was just a child. There, a man called Dictys was very kind. He accepted them and took care of them. But Dictys's brother Polydictys was a cruel and evil tyrant. The word tyrant refers to a cruel and oppressive king, the kind of king who exploits his people and his land. So Polydictys was the king of the island Seriphos, and he was not a good king. Perseus grew up into a strong young man. He worked hard on the land and was very protective of his mother. So when Perseus grew up into a young man, he was very strong, very hardworking, and also very caring and protective of his mother, Danae. One day, the mean king saw Perseus's mother and decided that he wanted to marry her. He kept trying to meet Danae, but Perseus did not like or trust the king, so he used his cunning to keep the king away in order to protect his mother. Now, Perseus's mother, Danae, was extremely beautiful. One day, the king, Polydictys, who was evil and cruel, saw Danae and he decided that he wanted to marry her because she was so beautiful. Now he tried to meet Danae, but Perseus noticed all this and he made sure that the king would not be able to meet his mother. He wanted to protect his mother because he knew that the king could not be trusted. So Perseus used his cunning, that means he used his smartness, to keep the king away from his mother so that he could keep her protected. The king became angry because he was used to getting whatever he wanted. So the king Polydictus was already a cruel person. And as a king, he was powerful. So he was used to getting whatever he wanted in his life. How can I get rid of this irritating man? Thought Polydictus. So the man that he found irritating was but of course Perseus, as he would not let Polydictus meet his mother Danae. So he wanted to get rid of Perseus. He plotted to send Perseus away in disgrace so that he would never return to Seriphos. To plot means to secretly make a plan against someone. Now, Polydictus plotted. He planned against Perseus. He wanted to send Perseus away from Seriphos after losing his respect in Seriphos, so that Perseus would never have the face to return to that island. Perseus knew that he had angered Polydictus, so he was surprised to get an invitation to a banquet. The invitation made it clear that the king expected everyone to bring him a horse as a present. Perseus was not just strong, but he was also very cunning, very intelligent. He knew that Polydictus was angry with him because he was keeping Polydictus away from his mother Danae. So when Perseus received an invitation from Polydictus to attend a banquet, he was very surprised. A banquet refers to a big party where lots of people are invited. The invitation to the banquet was a clear indication to everyone attending, including Perseus, that the king was expecting everyone to gift him with a horse. Perseus did not have a horse and he could not afford to buy one, so he was not a rich man. What shall I do? He wondered. It would be disrespectful to refuse the invitation, so he would have to go to the banquet without a gift. He hoped that the king would be understanding. Now Perseus started wondering, he started thinking that what could he do, because he did not have a horse to attend the party. He knew that he could not avoid going to the banquet because the king had invited him, and if he would not go to the banquet, then it would be insulting the king. And he did not have a horse to take to the party and gift the king. So in that way also the king would feel insulted that he had come to his party and not brought him a gift. So one way or the other, Perseus was going to get trapped. Now Perseus hoped that the king Polydictus would be understanding and forgive him for not bringing a horse as a present. But once again over here we know that Polydictus was a cruel king, and of course he was doing this to trap Perseus, so he was not going to be understanding. When Perseus arrived at the banquet, he realized that the king was not going to let him off. So when Perseus reached the banquet, he reached the party to which he was invited by the king, he realized that the king Polydictus was not going to be kind and he was not going to let him off, means that he was not going to excuse him or forgive him easily for not bringing a present. Everyone was lined up and one by one they gave their gifts to the king. So everyone who was attending the banquet had lined up, made a queue to meet the king. And when they would meet the king, they would give him their gift, which would but of course be a horse. When it came to Perseus' turn, the king spoke loudly. "Ha, Perseus, where have you hidden the horse you have got for me?" So when it was Perseus' turn at the party to greet the king and give him his present, the king spoke very loudly, so that everyone present at the banquet would be able to hear that Perseus had come to the banquet without any gift. The other guests laughed along with the king. One said, "Oh, Perseus, don't you know our customs?" So the other guests who were attending the banquet laughed at Perseus. So Perseus sort of became a joke over there. In fact, one of the people attending the party even asked Perseus that was he not aware of the customs of that land and had thus come to the party without any gift. Customs refer to the traditional way of doing things. Perseus felt embarrassed. Everyone in the great hall was looking at him. So Perseus was very embarrassed. He felt very ashamed when the king made fun of him for attending the banquet without any gift. He could see that everyone present at the banquet was looking at him. Without thinking about the consequences, he made a rash promise. So Perseus did not think of the consequence. Consequence refers to the result of our action. And he made a rash promise. When we do something rashly, then it means that we do it without thinking much of its results. King Polydectes, I have no gift for you today, but I promise that I will bring you another gift. Whatever you like, you name it and I will bring it. So Perseus made a promise to King Polydectes at that banquet. He told him that though he did not have any gift for him on that particular day, he would bring him a different gift, and King Polydectes could name the gift that he wanted Perseus to bring for him. The king looked delighted. He knew he could use this opportunity to get rid of Perseus. The king was delighted means that he was extremely happy on hearing the promise made by Perseus, because he knew that he could use this promise as an opportunity to get rid of Perseus forever. He said, "That is kind, Perseus. I know exactly what I want." He smiled menacingly. "Bring me the head of Medusa." King Polydectes thanked Perseus for promising to get him exactly what he wanted. He smiled menacingly. It means that he smiled in a very threatening manner at Perseus. Something that is menacing is something that is threatening and may cause harm. And we know that Polydectes wanted to harm Perseus. And so he told Perseus that he wanted him to get the head of Medusa. Everyone gasped. To gasp is to draw in breath quickly, out of shock or surprise. So everyone at the banquet was shocked on hearing that the king wanted Perseus to bring him the head of Medusa. Perseus nodded and bowed. "It shall be done," he said confidently, and then he went to his seat at the banquet table. He tried hard to keep his face from showing how worried he felt. Everyone at the party was shocked, but Perseus simply nodded and bowed on hearing the king's demand. To nod means to move your head up and down to show that you agree with someone. Now, he confidently told the king that he would bring him the head of Medusa. Then he went back to his table and started eating his food. He felt very worried, but he tried his best to ensure that his worry would not be visible on his face. The whole kingdom lived in fear of Medusa and her sisters. Now everyone was shocked, and even Perseus was worried on hearing the demand of the king that he wanted the head of Medusa, because everyone in that kingdom feared Medusa and her sisters. Why? They were Gorgons, monstrous, terrifying creatures who lived in a cave and preyed on anyone who came near them. The Gorgons were 3 sisters, and they were monstrous. So they were huge, and like monsters, They were terrifying creatures. The 3 Gorgons lived in a cave, and they prayed, that means they would kill and eat anyone who came near them. Instead of hair, they had snakes growing out of their heads. Unlike her sisters, Medusa was mortal and could, in theory, be killed. The Gorgons looked terrifying because instead of hair, they had snakes growing out of their heads. Now, there were 3 Gorgon sisters, out of which 2 were considered to be immortal, which means that they would live forever, they could not be killed. But one of them was Medusa, and she was considered to be mortal. So in theory, she could be killed. We say in theory because it did not seem like a practically possible thing to kill her, as anyone who looked directly at Medusa's face would be turned into stone. In reality, no one had ever come close to being able to defeat Medusa. So how would a young man like Perseus be able to defeat Medusa, as anyone who even looked at her face would be turned to stone? The next day before he set off, Perseus spoke to his mother. "Don't go," she begged him. So before leaving, Perseus talked to his mother, and his mother Danae was but obviously worried about him and did not want him to leave. "I must go," said Perseus. "It's the only way to be free from Polydictus." But Perseus was brave and courageous. He told his mother that this was the only way that they could be free of Polydictus after killing Medusa. Danae wished Perseus luck and watched him leave. She prayed to the gods to keep him safe from harm. So Danae, the mother of Perseus, understood what he was trying to say. She wished him good luck and then watched him as he left the island Seriphus. She prayed to the gods that they would keep Perseus safe. High up in the sky, the gods were watching. They wanted to help Perseus and appeared in front of him. Now, as we already know, Perseus was the son of god Zeus. So high up in the sky from the heaven, the gods were watching all that was happening, and they wanted to help Perseus. So they appeared in front of him. Zeus gave him a special sword and a helmet that would make him invisible, and this would definitely be very helpful. We should remember that Zeus in Greek mythology is considered to be the king of all gods. Hermes lent Perseus a pair of winged sandals so that he could fly. In Greek mythology, or you can say in old Greek stories, Hermes is considered to be the god of thieves and travelers. So he gifted Perseus a pair of winged sandals, that means sandals with which he could fly, that would help him in traveling. Athena gave him a polished shield. In Greek mythology, Athena is considered to be the goddess of wisdom, and she gave Perseus a polished shield. And this was a very wise thing to do, which we will realize later in the story. Perseus was grateful. "Thank you," he said. "I will do my best to be worthy of your gifts." He assured all the gods that he would do his best to be deserving of the wonderful gifts that he had been given so that he could kill Medusa. "Use your brain as well as your strength, Perseus," warned Athena. "You will need a special bag to carry Medusa's head." Now, Athena, being the goddess of wisdom, told Perseus that he should not just use his strength, but he should also use his mind to kill Medusa. She advised him to get a special bag to carry Medusa's head, because looking at Medusa's head could turn anyone into stone even after she was killed. "Where will I get this bag?" asked Perseus. So Perseus asked Athena from where he could get such a bag in which Medusa's head could be kept and carried safely.
"Go to the northern shore," said Athena. "There you will find the ancient grey witches. Make them tell you how to find the nymphs who look after the garden of the goddess Hera. Be cunning as well as brave."
Very kindly, Goddess Athena told Perseus that he should go to the northern shore of Seriphus Island, because there he would find the old grey witches. Those witches, though unkind, knew where to find the nymphs who looked after the garden of goddess Hera. Nymphs are actually goddesses in the form of young women who are found living in trees, rivers, mountains, etc. So the grey witches could tell Perseus how to reach the nymphs, and the nymphs would be able to tell him how to get the bag in which Medusa's head could be carried safely. These nymphs looked after the garden of goddess Hera. Goddess Hera is considered to be the goddess of marriage. Goddess Athena tried to tell Perseus that in handling the grey witches and getting information from them, Perseus would have to be brave as well as very smart. Perseus made his way to the northern shore. So Perseus, with the help of the gifts that he had received, like the winged sandals, reached the northern shore of Seriphus. When he came near to the cave of the ancient witches, he crouched behind some large rocks. So when Perseus reached close to the cave where the old grey witches lived, he decided to hide behind some large rocks so that he would be prepared with regard to what he was going to see and what he would have to deal with. To crouch means to bend your knees and bring your arms close to your chest and sit closer towards the ground.
Never had he seen such a hideous sight.
So Perseus in his entire life had never seen a more ugly scene than the one that was in front of him. The word hideous means extremely ugly or bad, and sight refers to a vision or scene that you can see. The witches wore filthy, tattered grey robes, which looked so much like their wrinkled grey skin that it was hard to make out their features.
The word filthy means extremely dirty, and the word tattered means torn and old. So, the old grey witches inside the cave were very dirty. They wore extremely dirty and torn grey-coloured robes. A robe refers to a piece of clothing that is long and very loose. So the robes that the witches wore looked quite similar to their wrinkled grey skin. And that is why it was difficult to understand where the robes ended and from where their skin started. And it was thus also very difficult to make out their features. Perseus almost gagged as he noticed that they shared one eyeball. Now, these witches were blind, and they shared one eyeball to look at the things around them. When Perseus looked at them and the way that they were sharing that one eyeball, passing it from one hand to the other amongst each other, then he almost gagged.
Which means that he almost vomited looking at that scene. The word gagged refers to feeling so uncomfortable that you think that you're going to vomit.
As the witches moved around the area, They passed the eyeball to each other with their claw-like wrinkled hands. So their hands looked like claws of an animal and were extremely wrinkled. Perseus crept closer. To creep means to walk slowly without catching attention. So quietly, without attracting attention, Perseus walked closer towards the cave. "I hear someone coming," said one witch. But Perseus was dealing with witches, and one of them could make out that someone had come over there, and she told the same to her sisters. We have come to the end of part 1 of this chapter, Perseus and the Gorgon. To find out what happens next and to listen to the rest of the explanation of this chapter, please follow the link given in the description to part 2 of the chapter, Perseus and the Gorgon.